company is comprised of people, right? So if the people aren't informed, involved, engaged, marketing is kind of everybody's job in this day and age in particular. So everybody's a representative of the company, even if they're not in a marketing function, even if they're not in an external client-facing function. So you really need to make sure they're all empowered and engaged and on board with what's going on.
This is the Revenue-Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris Mechanic. Join me as I uncover the secrets of the world's most elite CMOs and marketing leaders. The Revenue-Driven CMO is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the AI-driven performance agency that makes you smarter. Hey, what's up, party people? Welcome to another exciting episode of Revenue-Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris Mechanic. We have an awesome episode in store for you today. Our guest is a true entrepreneurial powerhouse. She is a visionary leader. She thrives on challenging the status quo and really reshaping the future of business. She's got and one of these like kind of unicorn types, remarkable blend of just like scrappy, smart as a whip, deep business acumen, and an unwavering focus on growth and transformation. She is an expert in marketing and communications and can do anything from, guiding little startups to reinventing big Fortune 100 giants. So just a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience from growth marketing and, just like tapping into and unlocking potential in general. Currently, she is CMO at Vitech Systems Group, which is a really interesting company on a mission to future-proof insurance and pension administration. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Dawn Mueller. How are you, Dawn?
Thank you, Chris. I'm fine, and I'm really appreciative of you having me on your podcast. Very excited about it. You do great work, and happy to be part of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to have you. I'm really excited to unpack. So let's jump right into it. For folks listening, like, what would you say, what's one of your best kept secrets to the success that you have had in your career?
All right. So one of the best kept secrets is really, it's a tenet of being market oriented. And let me just give you a quick overview. Market orientation, those are companies that have competitor orientation, a customer orientation, and interfunctional coordination. And why do you want to be a market-oriented organization? Because it leads to higher profitability. Okay, so some of your big names up there, like Apple and others, they do practice this. And my secret is really honing in on that interfunctional coordination part. Okay. Sounds very wordy, but really that's the way to go about it. And another way to think about it, Chris, is how do you become a T? And I don't know if you've heard that expression.
Yeah, like a T-shaped marketer.
Yes, exactly. So that interfunctional coordination really helps you with that horizontal part of that T. And what that is really understanding and communicating with your colleagues in the other functions. Yeah. And facilitating that communication and understanding. So it means I'm on the phone with finance, means I am talking to IT, means I am involved with HR. Means that not a week goes by that I'm somehow not touching on those areas.
Wow. Okay. So you said, so we've all heard about sales and marketing, really need to be aligned at the hip, but you said finance makes sense too. HR and IT is kind of surprising. So you speak with them weekly.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what does your typical, what are some of your typical routines, or how do you facilitate this communication regularly?
Well, I'll take a step back. Company is comprised of people, right? So if the people aren't informed, involved, engaged, marketing is kind of everybody's job in this day and age in particular. So everybody's a representative of the company, even if they're not in a marketing function, even if they're not in an external client-facing function. So you really need to make sure they're all empowered and engaged and on board with what's going on. So for me, when I'm communicating with HR, I'm saying, okay, well, you're all responsible for the internal engagement. How are people feeling about these things? Can we get a pulse check on what they're thinking about, how we're positioned in the marketplace. And we work together. We collaborate across the board on that and making sure that the employees are informed, that the internal employee comms are supporting a lot of the marketing messages. So I think somebody once said it best when they said, your external messages are your internal messages as well. So you need to let everybody in the company know what you're doing externally so they can be on board with it and not surprised by it. So that's where HR comes in. IT also from facilitation of the messages and facilitation of the MarTech stack too, because right, our MarTech stack has to plug into our systems across the enterprise. So I need to be communicating with them regularly,
Yeah.
and hopefully not in a disastrous way, like something has gone wrong.
Right.
But all of that kind of syncs up and goes interfunctional coordination.
Wow. So I personally suck badly at this. Just communication in general is an area that I really need to work on. And I know that a lot of others fall into that camp. Do you have any tips or advice for, like, let's suppose that there's a listener who does not have this interfunctional coordination going on, or maybe it's, somewhat dysfunctional. What are some tips or advice that you might offer to go from sort of like 0 to 1 in that category?
Yeah. So one of the things I would recommend is if you are a marketing professional and you don't have an organization that supports the interfunctional coordination at this point, you can start to affect that change by having almost open hours, office hours to drop in. I've also in past companies where it was a little bit more challenging with this type of orientation, was to have these marketing, I think I just called them extended marketing calls. So they were open to everybody within the organization. Come on in, drop in, hear what we're saying, and we would showcase certain things. And then questions would come up naturally. To be honest, we deliberately would try to place some provocative topics in there to elicit a response and a reaction. And then that would start the dialogue. And then, gee, maybe we should be talking regularly. So you can kind of take that approach to get the ball rolling with it.
That's a great idea. Open office hours?
Yeah, open office hours. Drop on in. Find out what we're doing. Find out what we're about. The other thing is you can surface it as a suggestion to your leadership team. I mean, again, all the data is out there. Hey, gee, if we get better about our interfunctional coordination, because I'm sure most companies have that competitor orientation, customer orientation, but if you don't have that cohesive glue, well, gee, if we get better about that, that's going to lead to increased profitability. How about we give it a shot? Mm-hmm. Right? Business case is already there for it.
Yeah.
So
you
can ferment that.
What sorts of benefits do you see from having a strong interfunctional coordination game? Like you mentioned profitability, but how does that manifest, or like what is it that drives that profitability?
When your teams are all on the same page, you can get farther faster. Another way to think of it is a rising tide lifts all boats. You could say it's a Gestalt thing, right? The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. It's a number of different ways, but we know that the stronger the team, the better the outcomes are going to be. So that's how it manifests. So if obviously sales and marketing, right? That's just table stakes in this world. But sales and marketing being coordinated. But, for example, where we are, you need the delivery team to be able to get the product out and implement it. You need the product management team to understand, hey, what's going on with the customers and how are we adapting and what is the voice of the customer asking for? So that's some of the ways that it manifests. It also keeps everybody, it brings a degree of transparency, right? Everybody's informed. So for example, if I'm pulling analyst information from the industry analysts out there, the big names and the smaller names, am I sharing that across the board? Does everybody know what headwinds are coming? Does everyone know what tailwinds are coming? So it serves to really keep everybody informed and focused on the goals that we're trying, or the OKRs in our case, of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Are there any stories you can think about of specific examples where somebody on the team, whether HR, IT, finance, or some other group, maybe it was customer success, participated in one of your office hours and did something that was surprising in a good way?
That's a great question. I think there are a number of smaller instances rather than earth-shattering
Yeah.
instances, but I can tell you one of them, finance. I won't name places, but finance was pretty much hands off. Here's the program. Here are the spreadsheets. Get your data in. We'll see ya. That type of approach. And through the conversation and through the transparency, and I said, well, hey, I want to work with you guys more regularly so we can be more accurate in the budget and the forecasting and everything. They said, okay, well, give us an overview. So I gave an overview. Oh, this is really interesting. And I said, well, this is how it impacts things. So this is going to give us a better lift down the line, which is going to make things easier for all of you. Oh, and all of a sudden now we're on at least a monthly touch point, at least, to go over everything. So that's one of the times that finance reacted. HR, I mean, I think really influencing pulse surveys and the engagement surveys to really say, well, gee, we're looking at internal, but everybody needs to have, again, that interfunctional coordination, but that customer orientation. How focused are our employees on our customers? And are they aware? Are they even aware? Because sometimes people are in roles and they're saying, well, that's over there. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's really bringing that degree of awareness and having, in the past, having influenced some HR, maybe pulse points to kind of get a lay of, what do people know about our customers and our clients? So those are a couple that come to mind.
Hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours, even if you're already a client. If you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenue-drivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenue-drivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.
Really interesting. Yeah, we had, I remember there was a period of time, probably about a year or so ago, where we had an initiative where we were doing this. We were doing it really well. We brought, we're an agency, right? So we're structured a little bit differently. We're like the vast majority of people are like focused on clients, right? Like we have a tiny little finance and a small HR team, but like 80-90% of people are focused on clients. So we brought all the functional client leaders into like a weekly kind of a pulse, and marketing was one of the things that we talked about. But we found that people were actually quite willing to contribute and participate, like more willing than I thought, especially when we did it in a round table type of a setting. Because we tried in the past to be like, hey, please write a blog post. Like, hey, great job. Like, write us a blog post about this. Like, write us a case study. And it's like pulling teeth. But I did find that doing it in more of an open forum thing gets people more into it, where they're like, oh, like I could write a blog post about this or that.
Right. Now they become invested in the outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that. I like that quite a bit. I'm curious, is there anything that you publish broadly, like on any cadence, like a company-wide update or a leadership update? Like what? Because most of what we've talked about so far is like one-to-one, but do you have any one-to-many sorts of reports that you've published and had success with?
You mean for internal purposes?
Yeah, for internal purposes.
So one of the things I do, and this started, oh my gosh, back in my Deloitte days, was just a marketing status update. And it sounds very simplistic, and it actually is by design, meant to be high level. I published, this is what the work in progress is for the team. This is what's coming up. This is what's recently completed. And I just recently added another section called resource optimization. So, where are we doing some cost takeouts and where are we optimizing any marketing spend.
Mm-hmm.
And any place I have worked in, that has been received so well because it gives you by the category, whether it's alliance marketing, product marketing, whatever it is, what's going on, what's coming up, any results in there too. We put metrics in that as well. And we update that regularly. And then I share it out across the departments and the functions.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been a great tool for facilitation too. And then interfunctional coordination. The other thing I should have mentioned too is your content marketing. Your content marketing can be a great way of delivering interfunctional coordination. Just like you had said with that open session and the roundtable, I've learned that if you can come up with themes and have the different teams across the enterprise buy into it. Well, gee, these are the themes we're thinking for the content, and then we'll shake out topics on top of that. People want to speak up. And then all of a sudden you start to identify your SMEs, your subject matter experts, and then they become authors. You help them with that. And all of a sudden everybody's working across the board to saying, hey, how do we get better lift externally on this? So that's another way.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I find that team members often read the content that's being published also. So
yes.
It's kind of like an outside in way maybe to like impact, culture or impact focus. Like for instance, I've noticed on my own LinkedIn, I go through phases, sometimes I'm like all about SEO. Other times it's like, oh my goodness, AI. But like I've noticed that the things that I post about, I'll suddenly hear somebody, in the hallway talking about it, or like more frequently. So there's kind of
That's
this
great.
like, contagiousness of content that I found happening.
Enthusiasm is infectious, right?
Yeah,
it is.
That's true.
So that's great.
That's brilliant. Well, hey, I'd like to talk about Vitech and what you guys are doing marketing wise and what's really moving the needle for you. But one last question on interfunctional communication. If we could double click into the sales and marketing relationship, like one thing that I'm curious. I'm not sure what your sales team looks like or if it's structured or if it's more like the consultants are selling the deals, but like, what does it look like? Like, a really good lead comes into pipeline. Like, what does the sales and marketing alignment motion kind of look like? Like, how does that go down, or how have you found it to be most effective?
Well, that's great because that's been I don't want to say in flux, but that's been evolving for us here too. And I'll share with you that we have, to make things a little bit more complicated, Vitech was traditionally a services-led company. And now we've pivoted to being a SaaS-led company, which is as easy as you would imagine it to be.
Right.
So, big effort on the part of our CEO and the leadership team here to affect that change. And that's been coming along great. For us, from a lead flow perspective, I like to think of it as a contact, right? It's just somebody that's made contact with us in some capacity. Then, okay, all right, they shake out into another category. So then they become a lead. But then we have a list of criteria that we evaluate them against, right? The size, the viability, the sector they're in, a number of different criteria. And then once they meet that, they become a marketing qualified lead or an MQL. And then once they hit that MQL status, we pass that over to the sales team. And we have different people designated, for different areas, different size companies, et cetera. And then it's up to them for the follow-up. Now, that said, that's changing a little bit. I just recently invested in a tool. I won't name names on it right now. A tool that's going to function as a virtual business development rep for us and help us with our inbound, but also can help with our outbound.
What? So, I got to hear what that is. It's like AI driven and you fine tuned it with all your data?
Yes, that's what we're working on right now. So it's a game changer for us. So a lead comes in, we can qualify it virtually now. We don't have to do everything manually. And then the follow-up is also automated.
Wow.
And then it'll get them to that MQL status a little quicker. And
well, you guys are ahead of that game.
So I hope so. Let's hope.
Well, I got to get the name of that tool offline, but I'll tell you the name of a tool that I've been obsessed with, which is in the same category. It's called Bland AI. bland, like, hey, this food needs salt, it's bland.
Okay.
It's a tiny little startup. I'm friends with the founder. Like they just finished, I think, like a seed round, but it's super duper cool. It's, if you go to their website, Bland AI, there's this little demo, like you can put your name and phone number in there. It calls you pretty much immediately. And
Wow.
it's not perfect. Like you can kind of tell that it's AI. But you can say things and it'll respond. So yesterday, it always starts, it's like, hey, who's this? And I'm like, hey, this is Chris. How are you? And they're like, hey, Chris, what's up? How can I help you? And I'm like, I thought this was Taco Bell. Like and it goes, ha, yeah, not Taco Bell. This Bland AI, da 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 da. And then, but instead of like DQing me, it tried to sell me. It's like, what are you getting for
Really?
your job, Chris?
Oh, I need to check this out.
Oh, it was so cool.
100%.
It's so cool. They call it pathway engineering, right? Like, navigating that sort of conversation. But and Zuckerberg, I'm not sure if you follow like Facebook, but they had their earnings call recently. He talked about a bunch of stuff, but he was like, we're doubling down into agents, AI agents, they call them.
I did hear that.
And like 5 years from now, everybody's going to have an agent just the same way that everybody has like a website today. And so there's like, and it makes so much sense. Like just imagine as a consumer, say that you're like looking for a plumber, right? Like you're going to call around and you're more or less going to like set an appointment with the first one that you get a hold of that like has availability. And so, for simple stuff, like just like setting appointments, like that is already feasible. For more complex things like B2B sales, that will take a lot more engineering probably. But I mean, I could envision a day where almost the whole sales process happens like via AI.
The tool that I referenced that I won't name, I'll name it offline. They pretty much said they've replaced all sales with this tool, which is crazy.
That's
right.
Wild.
Yeah, it really is. But I have to check out that bland.ai.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting.
You should check, and try the lab demo. It's super duper.
I am going to ask if it's Taco Bell too.
Yeah. I thought this was Taco Bell. Cool. Well, that was fun. Let's nerd out a little bit more. So let's talk marketing for Vitech. Tell us a little bit about Vitech. Like, just give us a background. You said you're transitioning from service to SaaS, but how can we conceptualize what you guys do?
So you go on, register for benefits for your health insurance and everything every year.
Mm-hmm.
So that system, the administration system for that would be a Vitech.
I got you.
Software system. Okay, as an example. Same thing if you have a pension. I'm not fortunate enough to have a pension, but if you have a pension and you want to go in and see your benefits, you see the value, take money out, whatever it is, this is the back end for all of that.
Oh, I got you. So the employees would log into it, not just the employer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Cool.
So it's almost B2B2C, almost.
Got it.
And Vitech on the whole, again, pivoting from services to SaaS. And one of the things we're really trying to do is raise the profile of the company. It's interesting. It's been around since 1986.
Wow.
Long time. And little trivia, started out of the dorm room of the founder when he was attending NYU.
Oh my.
I think that's about the same time the Beastie Boys were doing their thing in NYU. So I guess it depended on the dorm room, what was going on.
Right.
But yes, that's where it started.
Wow.
So
that seems like such a random thing for a college kid to be into.
I think so too.
Right.
Yeah, really interesting. So I'm sure there's a book that'll come out about it someday.
Probably. So. But that's cool. So you've been there not very long, I think about a year or so, or 6 months?
Just under a year.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you find really working? Like what's really driving your revenue engine from a marketing perspective?
Really, well, events are back, post-COVID world, right? Events are definitely back. That's helping us. Also, we're getting some pretty good lift from our media relations and our media presence. They really, Vitech really didn't have a lot of the media presence before. And now we've been Forbes articles twice in the time that I've been here.
Wow.
We've been listed pretty high ranking on companies that are disrupting their industries by places like CEO Weekly. So we're getting a good amount of lift out of that. Other things that are working, well, we're about to commence a whole demand generation program. So I can't go into much more detail about that right now, but it involves a number of different channels and tactics, all converging to give us a lot of great output and ideally conversations too.
Yeah.
So that's what we're focusing.
Yeah. I imagine, who's a good customer for you? Like large enterprise companies, or is it more the SMB crowd?
No, it is large enterprise. The really known names for both the insurance and then on the pension side, it's pension funds, unions, police departments, teacher unions, those type of
I
things.
see. So you're selling to the insurers and the fund admins, not to the direct companies that will be using it.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. So that's a very enterprise level sale.
Yes,
Like that's a
it
kind
is.
of world where like you probably have like a fairly small addressable target market.
We do have a very a relatively the TAM is a certain size, and then the SAM, and then the SOM, right? All your acronyms there.
I can't keep up. So TAM, I
Gets
know.
smaller, it's smaller.
What's TOM?
And that's where SOM, sales obtainable market.
Okay.
So there's the total addressable market, the sales obtainable market, and the sales addressable market. So they each kind of dovetail. I think I had the order wrong. It should be TAM, SAM, and then SOM. That's the way it goes.
What's the difference
So it
between
narrows
SAM
down.
and SOM? Sorry, I'm ignorant in this.
The SAM is it's fine. The SAM is what the total market that we could get for sales, what companies are available, and then the obtainable is which ones are realistic. So if we're saying, hey, our system makes sense because of the price point to go with the higher end of the market for those, then our obtainable market is diminished by those lower end, maybe the SMBs, if the price point is too high. So that's it narrows down even farther. So sales addressable is everybody that would potentially be a buyer of a system like this. And then the sales obtainable is, okay, which ones do we think are ideal for buying it?
Got it. So you'll probably focus on the SOM for the most part, but you have to do the TAM and the SAM to get to the SOM.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then that's going to shift us to doing a little bit more of an account-based marketing approach.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah,
because it is so finite.
Totally. Yeah, that seems to fit the bill here. Cool. All right. Well, I learned something today. Thank you.
So did I from you.
For everyone listening, if you are learning here today, go ahead and drop us a like or a thumbs up or a comment or share this with a friend wherever you get a pod. We're going to keep going here. All right. So what's working now for you is, it sounds like, more of the traditional media. You're getting ready to launch this demand gen motion. What are and I know you're, fairly new there, but what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing? Like, what are the biggest hurdles that you're facing?
Oh my gosh, just don't go on X or any of the social media. You'll have all the answers there. It's an election year. There's some downward pressure on the markets right now and the sectors too. It's also differentiating from competitors. We have a bit of a challenge because there aren't a lot of competitors in this space, but there are some that promise the sun, the moon, the stars, and then they don't deliver. And that kind of besmirches everybody's reputation. Yeah. So, the one thing I will give credit to Vitech is we really try to just promise what we're going to do and then deliver on it, right? And we try not to overpromise and underdeliver. So we do have some competitors that overpromise and underdeliver, and then, they get into legal issues. So we're trying to stay way far away from that.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that phenomenon. As an agency, it's like almost every prospect I speak with has been jaded in one way or another.
Yeah.
With over.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The clients really have to do their due diligence and make sure how credible is the the solution, you might be getting, well, it's like anything else, right? You go out there and you say, wow, this is really a good deal. Is it really a good deal, or are you going to get it later on down the road?
Yeah.
So,
right. Exactly. Very cool. Well, looking forward to the future, I am curious. So you said you've got some demand gen happening. What else are you guys excited about, like over the next, say, 12 to 24 months, whether that's tools or tech or new motions that you're going to test out? Like what's on
kind
the
of all
roadmap?
of the above, Chris. It's almost all of the above. We're really going to put some muscle behind our digital marketing effort now.
Mhm.
That's been a little quiet and subdued, I would say. So we're cranking that up again, and then our content. We have a full-time content marketer on staff. Very excited about that. He's
Wow.
newer too.
That's
Only here a couple months, and so we're putting together a whole content program,
Mhm.
and that content program will feed through all the other channels, through the social channels, the digital channels. So very excited about that. The other thing that this is me geeking out. I'm sorry,
I
but I
like it.
just
No, please.
love it. We're looking at tools that are more analytics based to get us more into the predictive analytics. So, there's multi-touch attribution tools out there. There's the media mix modeling tools out there, but I want something that overlays both of those and gives me the analytics, the hard-hitting analytics and data that I need to make those data-informed decisions. I like to distinguish between data-driven, data-informed.
Mhm.
So, but that's my next big thing.
Really
Very
interesting.
exciting.
Do you have like a tool or a vendor that you picked for that already?
I have one in mind right now. Again, I'll talk to you offline.
Okay.
So, unless you want me to talk about it.
No, I
So,
mean, no, it's okay. But I'll tell you one of my
no,
favorites. It doesn't sound like the
please.
exact same use case. It's more so like it won't give you access to the data, but it will build really good audiences for you that you can activate on like paid media channels. But it's called Tomi.ai. So
Okay.
Tomi.ai, basically, it'll take like your last 100 closed deals, analyze them to death, and then deduce basically like the web browsing pattern, like in a very detailed, granular way,
Oh,
and
that's
then
interesting.
begin learning based on anonymous just like interactions with the website. So at a high level,
How do you spell it?
TOMI,
TOMI. Okay.
TOMI.
I have to check that out.
Yeah. So at a high level, it will, something like if somebody goes to, if they spend a lot of time in your resources section on your website, right? Or if they're like checking out your methodology, you could anecdotally deduce that they're pretty good. But if you see the way that Tomi's pixel fires, it like looks at every single little movement, every single little click, even
Micro movements.
yeah. And on mobile, it will even look at the pressure, like how hard it was clicked to form a model of basically,
Really? Oh
anonymously.
my God.
And it's for B2B actually. Like it's not a B2C thing. It's made for long
I need to check
cycle
that out.
B2Bs. Yeah, my buddy Dimitri owns it. Really sharp team. They came from the banking world, but they're like just hardcore machine learning, type
Yeah,
type
sounds like
people.
it.
Yeah,
Well, that sounds great.
it's really cool. It's really cool.
I might be okay. So I've got Bland and I've got Tomi that I
Yeah.
need to check out.
Yep.
Thank you.
So out of the obligatory, we've got to talk about AI a little bit. I'm conscientious of time here. But yeah, let's talk AI. I'm curious, there's a spectrum of maturity there, right? Like folks that are just barely dabbling and then there's power users. Like, where are you guys on that journey and how are you using it? How's your marketing team using it mostly?
Well, we're definitely using generative AI for programs, for development, for ideation. As really, we're using generative AI as a virtual team member right now. And I think in that context, it makes a lot of sense for us. Um, our content marketer, he still likes to write a lot of his own stuff, and I said, well, okay, why don't you use it as a junior associate giving you your first draft, and then you polish it. So he's making that shift to, and I think in that way, we're able to leverage it more effectively.
Yeah.
I think it's when you think, oh, I'm just going to have it do all my writing, and then you find out that it's made some crazy statements and some other things that it's a surprise. So if you manage those expectations, I'd say we're probably in the middle of the adoption with that. And I think with some of these other tools, as we really try to leverage the MarTech stack across, we're going to be moving farther into heavy users, power users, I'd say in the next few months.
Totally.
For sure.
Yeah, we have one of the things that we've been doing when we get a new client, we do an onboarding. That's where we're learning all about their business. We're asking for all their documentation. We're compiling all their assets and resources that we have. So what we're doing now is basically creating a brain, right? So it's like a little bot. You could think of it as an agent or a series of custom GPTs where we're ingesting all of that, as well as, many examples of ads that the client likes, content that the client likes to get the tone of voice. We're basically building a brain. And then so when we go and say, hey, write me a LinkedIn ad for this asset, it will reference all of that sort of it has it in its memory more or less. And it makes the first output much, much better without having to do really long prompting everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's really sexy because that's a client pet peeve, right? Clients really dislike when they're spending time with somebody, hours and hours, telling them all about the background. And then somebody asks them a redundant question, it's that's my pet peeve. It's dude, I just spent 5 hours with you.
Right.
You didn't communicate that.
Where's the IP?
Yeah.
Where is it? Where did it go? Right. Exactly.
Right. So that has been, more or less eliminated because you can also go to the custom GPT and be like, oh, hey, XYZ product, tell me about the persona for that again. And it will just know. Right.
That's great. So you build this repository in-house
for you
to work with your clients. Do you ever build that repository for clients who maybe want to bring that in-house too?
We certainly could. Yeah, we certainly could. And you've got the core repository, but then you can have little use cases, right? So you can be hey, a good LinkedIn ad, the text for a good LinkedIn ad, here's our formula for that. It needs to have a hook at the beginning. It has the description, which can only be this long. It has the headline, which should include an emoji or not include emoji, whatever it is. So then you've got these little micro bots that also have access to all that context, but then they have some specific system instruction for this task or that task or this task.
I think you just got yourself a SaaS product.
Maybe.
So.
And then, so those are bots, which do individual tasks, but agents, which is the next hot thing that is already happening in Silicon Valley. And soon everybody's going to be doing it, are a series of those bots basically strung together so that it could come up with an idea and identify the asset and write the copy and come up with an image for it, just with one prompt.
That's great.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. It's amazing how far we've come in such a short time.
So I could go on and on with this. I'm a super nerd.
This is a whole other podcast.
It could be. Yeah. I'm going to take this transcript, feed it into the GPT and be based on these, address these questions.
I want to see the output of that. That'd be great.
Yeah, right.
I'd love to see that.
But the last thing I'll share, actually a couple pieces of news. We've got a newsletter, which there's been some crazy news. So in case you didn't know, or for listeners, this is just kind of a random rapid fire, but remember when Google came out and they were hey, cookies are going away. Everybody needs to come up with another solution.
Yes.
That's not happening anymore. They changed their mind. So we're good there. No need to solve for the deprecation of third-party cookies.
Right.
I just heard that 2 days ago. So I was relieved, but I'm also a little bit upset. Google's a monopoly. You heard that.
I heard that. Yes.
Judge
Saw
ruled
that
them a monopoly. That's going to have big implications
for sure.
across the board for everybody. It may actually turn out to be better for marketers and for investors, because like they could very well make Google break up their search business, like peel out YouTube, peel out Google AdSense, peel out the display and, DV360, and like have them actually be different entities. Crazy times.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to watch. I think Q4 of this year is going to be very interesting for so many reasons.
Yeah.
So.
The last thing, so there's OpenAI, which has their model is GPT. There's Anthropic, their model is Claude.
Cool.
Meta has their models called Llama. So there's multiple massive tech companies like competing to be king of AI. And there's a standardized test where you can test a model on like reasoning ability, writing, math, like, 7 different dimensions. And this just happened last week, but Gemini 1.5, Google's latest model, is now the king officially. Smoked all of the other ones in all like 7 categories. So
they made some significant improvements, because do you remember a few weeks ago, people were putting in answers, and one of the suggestions it made was to eat rocks to get more minerals in your diet?
Yeah. Well, that's
little glitches, but it sounds like they worked those out.
Yeah, well, it's not public yet. Like if you go to the public facing one, it's not there yet, but there's like a sandbox environment that you can go to play with it.
I have to check that out too. I've got a whole list of to-dos after this.
I know. Sorry, I'm just geeking out too. No, but hey, I want to be sensitive to your time. This has been awesome. I've been inspired. I'm not the best communicator in the world. I need to spend more of my time communicating in general. I'm going to go, my main to-do is like to set up an open office hours, I think. And I'll start publishing a once a month report just broadly for the company to know. Those will be my first.
Send you a template.
I love that. But I was inspired here today. For everybody else that's inspired, please share this with a friend or give us a great review wherever you get your pods. We always appreciate that. Dawn, any parting words or for folks that want to learn more about you or Vitech, you?
Sure. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I may be a few days behind in responding, but I will respond. And just really appreciate all of this and appreciate sharing the knowledge too. I love a knowledge exchange is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And we need to do that as marketers to support each other.
I love it. Yeah, you're really impressive. I'm leaving here inspired. I'm going to go schedule those open office hours right here when we get off. Stay on the line for 1 second. We'll wrap. But for everybody else, that was another exciting episode of Revenue-Driven CMO, and we will see you next time.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us here today. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at revenue-drivencmo.com. That's revenue-drivencmo.com. And hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours. Even if you're already a client, if you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. And that's just because you're a listener of this podcast. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenue-drivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenue-drivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.